Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. You know, season 6 will be probably my favorite season because I'm talking to service-based businesses, B2B businesses. These are businesses that literally service other businesses. And so, you know, we've talked everything from, you know, consumer-driven brands, which I absolutely love too. But I love when I get to sit down with people who are solving problems for businesses. And the fact that we need to know that there are global companies in the tech space, in the retail space, and the manufacturing space that are led by Black leaders. I think it's important, especially when we talk about D&I, those people that are in those roles, to understand that, you know, perhaps the service-based business can be a supplier to your supply chain. So I love when I get to sit down with B2B businesses and really get a better understanding of what they're doing, how they're doing it, who their target audience is. And so our next guest, I'm so grateful to have him. And I'll tell you all this, listeners, today is not one of my best days. It's been rough for me. So if you are listening, I hope by the time you listen to this, I will be better. But I am not doing the best. And I need to publicly say that because I think sometimes we show up and people are like, oh, well, you know, she seems like she's great. And so I just want you all to know that it is a struggle for me to show up today and be present and still be able to be inspired too. And that's why I'm here, because I gain inspiration with these business owners that I get to sit down with and hear their stories. And so this today is what's going to bring me joy and get me back to a place of peace. And so I want to introduce you all to Dominique Wilson. Mr. Wilson is a seasoned global development professional with over 15 years of experience in community and economic development. He assists NGOs and for-profit companies in establishing sustainable and scalable initiatives, connecting them with investors and donors. We'll come back to what NGOs are because I want you all to really understand what he does. Currently, he serves as the Associate Director of Corporate Partnerships at the University of Illinois Discovery Partners Institute. He supports diverse talent pathways. He is also the co-founder and strategic advisor to RiseKit. I love that, RiseKit, an economic mobility software that reached 40,000 MRR. We'll come back to that. With his assistance, Dominique has collaborated with organizations like the World Bank, USAID, and Harvard School of Public Health. He is an entrepreneur, early stage real estate investor, and a passionate community advocate. And he has a diverse background, including roles as a global health corporates fellow, McKinsey, many MBA scholar, and so much more. His guiding motto is inspired by Mother Teresa, emphasizes the power of small actions to create lasting change. Welcome to the show, Dominique.
Well, I'm very humbled for this opportunity, and I'm grateful for this chance to share my story, but also be able to lift up others that look to aspire, but also looking to learn more about how to grow their businesses. And Loretta and your team, I'm really grateful for you all's welcome. And even in this time where you, even yourself, may be going through something, and sending you good energy and my best as you were going through this time as well. So I appreciate you and your team for welcoming me.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. Before we dive into your background and your narrative, I love to walk people through the journey. Like, who is Dominique as a little boy? Like, who was that little boy?
Well, I would say that when I was very young, and this trait has always been lived in me in terms of being curious and ambitious in a way where I always sought feedback. And um, I would say that I'm a gentleman that grew up in Chicago's West Side, and um, growing up as a boy on Chicago's West Side wasn't always easy to navigate on the violence that happens in Chicago's streets and the trauma that occurs. And being a person that was actually a part of the Department of Family Support Services, the Department of Family Children's Services in that respects, with DCFS, and um, being awarded a state, and really going through home to home, and I had to grow up very fast, very early, and it taught me how to be very observant, but also be able to recognize individuals' intentions very early on. But I would say in my first note, when I mentioned curiosity, that really cultivated my direction when I engaged folks that I sought out in terms of mentors or programs that's in the community. But if anything, I would say that because of those lessons of realizing that life doesn't just give something to you, you have to create it. Realizing that very early on, I've always been very passionate about figuring out and being grateful because people poured so much into me. And so for me, just want to live into that throughout my lives, and grateful for the lessons that I was taught growing up in that respects.
Wow. I mean, you just gave us a mouthful, Dominique, that you were awarded the state, and having to cope with that on Chicago's West Side is, I mean, I say all the time, entrepreneurs are I believe we are some of the best people at being resilient, which is why I think we're the best entrepreneurs, because we've experienced so much that sometimes is how it guides us. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. So what was your favorite subject growing up as someone who's a tech entrepreneur? I'm always curious about that.
Well, I would say there's two that really stood out to me, and that would be philosophy and economics. Okay. Those two, because philosophy gave insights on how people think, but also the ability of that mindset impacting one's own surroundings, and that influence that mindset has on one's own world, but also one's own decisions long term. And the other element of economics is because I've seen so much change happen because of business itself within communities, and good or bad in some ways. But I would say it's a driving force of catalyst in terms of growth for folks, and it creates, with the right values and the right purpose, it creates so much good impact within lives. And so those are two that come to my mind in that reference.
That's awesome. Philosophy. And I think, again, we don't believe. And I think this is the other part, which is why I asked that question, is because, right, I don't know anyone whose favorite subject is philosophy from a Black culture, because we're not given permission to go outside of the lines in the way that society sees it, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you have that philosophy and, economics and mix that, to me, it's like, straight philosopher, curiosity, that's the space and I love it in that space. And so realizing that I don't think it can put limits on you. Cause like, when I think about young people, when they tap onto the podcast, are always like, oh man, they started off this way and now they do this. Like they don't always see that. And I think it's so important to say sometimes where you start isn't where it's going to be. Yeah. But I do think that part of that start helps you to be who you are, though. Do you think so?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. There's there's a mantra that folks think about in terms of nature versus nurture. And I always believe that life itself, is impacted by both. But then that end outcome is really that nature, that nurture that happens, and that nurture can happen within one's own environment as they grow up, but also how they impact their mindset and as they grow and learn, because each of us has a decision on what we absorb, the information that we absorb, the things that we pull up on our phones, the things that we search online. We have that discretion to decide, and the power of our decision. That, to me, that's the biggest gravity of our weight of change in our lives, and so so I wholeheartedly agree.
That's good. So, Dominique, let's dive into what is an NGO?
Yeah, sure. So, NGO is a nonprofit government organization. And typically, too, they can be basically an organization that's funding or supporting different institutions in the actual ecosystem. Okay. And they could be through the government, or they could be specifically just a foundational or organization that service the community. And typically, they could be housing services. Okay. They could be food security. It could be job services. Creation across the ecosystem.
Okay. So you guys, NGOs. So understanding that what that term is, I've never heard of it. So the fact that Dominique just gave us, information on these NGOs. And then the part that I also wanted to ask you about in this is the term, let me go back to it. I asked for that, is MRR. You reached 40,000 MRR. What does that stand for?
That is monthly recurring revenue. And that right there is basically, as a business, when one is has a SaaS product, a software as a service, you think about institutions such as in consumer stance, I think about Netflix. You pay a subscription, and each month they have X amount of consumers that they utilize and will at least use that product. And times that by X each month, let's say there's over 10,000 users, which we all know Netflix has over that.
Correct.
But that right there kind of gives a gravity to like what the MRR really stands for, and that's after costs of doing business, and it can vary based on the type of business that and the product that's being sold as well.
And I think that us being able to understand that, when you think about MRR, I think of it as, passive income.
Right.
And so you've done all this work. And so every month you like, oh my gosh, to your point, we made 50,000. For you, you said it's reached 40,000. And when you think about that, how do, to help people understand the benefit of building a software company that could be subscription-based and the benefit of that?
Yeah, I get excited about that question, actually, because there's, I always believe that it's important to build need-based businesses, because there's ultimately need-based businesses are where customers will always come to you. And it's very important to recognize within your own subset of industry, what are factors that affect your need-based business, be it laws that happen within policy or certain grants that become available or certain trends that happen in society in terms of health trends or technology trends. And to your point of question on the benefits of having a SaaS business or a software as a service business, typically you're able to build a standalone product. And that product, once it's built, it can be serviced across different customer lines. And basically, that model allows for those consumers, be it a B2B business or B2C, business to business or business to consumer, that right there allows for that reoccurring revenues to consistently come. And now our product within RiseKit, we're a systems tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that supports enterprises or large institutional bodies. And so typically those are larger contract sizes as well, because it's an enterprise and or systems tool.
So when you say economic mobility software, can you help people understand what kind of software or an example of what that is?
Yeah, certainly. So RiseKit, of its simplicity, we connect people to jobs and not-for-profit resources in one space.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, and I'll give you an example. I know I kind of jumped between words earlier between the Department of Family Support Services
mm-hmm.
versus the Child Support Services.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I was thinking about one of the organizations that we actually currently partner with within RiseKit, which is Department of Family Support Services.
Okay.
And they work with 54 of their workforce development delegates. So we work closely with their workforce development delegates, which is 54 of those organizations. So imagine 54 not-for-profits servicing the community, and they can be stretched across the Chicagoland area, and they could be supporting thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals in a given year. And those individuals may need housing support, legal services, jobs, and basically they can find those resources on RiseKit. And those individuals that's looking for those opportunities, be across the, let's say, the social determinants of health, across those spectrums, we can pinpoint those needs and suggest a not-for-profit that services that specific need. And once a person, elevates that, challenge they're able to take on new resources as well as they grow. And of course, we're able to track that impact across organizations, understand the efficiencies, but also the key barriers the collective may have, and then allows for funders to better inform their giving dollars, be it across businesses and or foundations or government providers as well.
Got it. So the way that I hear, let me make sure I got it, for myself and the people in the back. I always say the people in the back, they're like, mm-hmm. And people in the back, like, I think I got it, but I'm not sure. So the idea of what you all do is connect through your software. You're able to aid these organizations in connecting them to the delegates for job opportunities or workforce development. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the individuals that's in the community, they can create a free profile. The organizations typically provide the costs for those individuals, and those organizations, they can collaborate with each other.
Got it.
Across RiseKit as well.
I love it. So it's funny. It's been a while. It's totally been a while, but I remember you've made it very easy. So when I was in college, we had a career counseling center, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was a long time ago, and I say this. And so you would go into the career counseling center. They would be like, put your information in, kind of put what your interests are, and and at the time, we'll print out some jobs for you. They were printed out. What you're saying is you create this profile, we connect you, to those jobs, and we're able to profile you so that you can receive these opportunities, basically, right? Is that what we're saying? Yep.
Exactly. Okay. Those jobs and social services
and
that
social
are offered
services.
To those organizations. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I say that it's awesome that you have built this business, because I really have to say that, and I wanted to ask your thoughts about it, because I feel like that side of the business is so old and archaic. So it doesn't, to me, they don't seem like they're efficient in spaces. So when you think about, and I can speak from social service, to me as someone who is now caregiving and understanding the idea of just going to one portal to get services, in-house services or in-house home care. It would be nice if it was just one place, versus I got to call this person, then I got to tap into this person, I got to tap into the doctor. But the idea And so what you're saying is we're able to do that and get social service and job opportunities instead of going and standing in line. You know, back in the day, the people used to stand in line to get, social services, and they would stand there for hours.
Yes, exactly. And so we've started to expand throughout the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
I'm supporting different companies while also the actual not-for-profits that's in the communities. And now we're starting to expand in Texas and also Tennessee. And so it's really trying to get more reach and work with more organizations, be it companies, foundations, governments, providers as well.
And what other markets are you looking to expand again? Texas, you said? And
yes,
else?
Texas. We're starting to get a foothold there, and also Tennessee within Memphis area. And typically we like to take a channel partner approach.
Okay.
And for those that may not be familiar with a channel partner approach is where there's already a institutional body that works with the collective.
Okay.
And that way it reaches more of the folks that's for us that we're trying to target.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Like I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself this is about efficiency and being efficient in this space. And so, was this business something that you always desire, or did you just say, hey, I see a problem, let me go solve it?
Great question. I would say that I've been a part of the community development space since I was really in high school. So I used to do a lot of community outreach initiatives and working with different not-for-profits as I got older. And I realized that there, as you kind of alluded to, there's been some efficiencies within organizations. Sometimes they're competing between dollars. And so my team and I would say that at the helm of it, it was really inspired through my encounter with meeting our CEO, Matt Strauss. And Matt, very passionate gentleman. I met him, and I'm not sure if anyone have read Outliers, but
that's a good book. Yeah.
Speaks to time and place. And I had opportunity as I was transitioning out of college, and I came up to Chicago for a networking event, and I'm glad I did because I met someone that shared that same passion, and we built RiseKit since then. And I would say that he shared with me about what he saw within the community. He was actually working in the VC space, the venture capital space, and getting immersed into the environments. And he welcomed me and he brought me on board with RiseKit. And I would say that I never stopped negotiating. I think that positioned me differently in terms of my role within RiseKit. And even to this day, even though I'm not part of the day-to-day, I'm still very much involved in some capacities to support our growth. And so been seeing the impact of it within my personal life and more so within the community and the people that we've been serving as well.
Yeah. I think it's important, Dominique, guys, it's important that we feature, co-founders, business leaders, much like yourself, strategic advisors, that's not in the day-to-day, but they are, leading the negotiations. They're leading that, and there's a different team, because I think that's the part that people don't see that. We had as a good friend of mine, and they are in the tequila business, and people were like, well, you didn't really make it. He was like, it doesn't make sense. I'm still one of their chief advisors. And so it's still our company as a group. And so while I'm not in the day-to-day from that standpoint of making it, we have a team for that. And I think sometimes that's the problem. I think sometimes with Black businesses, like we're tied to mama's kitchen suit, right? No. And versus allowing someone to say, you know what, I'm going to package this up. I'm going to make the ingredients separately and sell it off. You continue to do the cooking shows. You may not see what we're, and I think just breaking that up allows for people to see it, ultimately as an enterprise business, but that has multiple verticals.
Agreed.
And not just it being just this one vertical and what we service. And so I think it's important to be able to highlight business leaders within their own ecosystem that serves in that role and says, hey, I don't really do the day-to-day. I'm okay with that. And I think in the B2B space, I think we have to showcase that because that is what happens, right? The same person that might have inked the deal isn't the person that's actually going to do the business.
Right. And you just spoke to a very key point in terms of building teams and building the right teams and bringing the right people in. And that's something that we've learned through RiseKit, and also one of my other businesses I'm building off the ground and support other startups. That's been the most effective thing to our growth is identifying people that are passionate, people that get it, people that are smarter than myself or others in the room, so that we can be able to elevate together while also bring different perspectives to the table, so that we can resolve our challenges a lot more efficiently, while also in a way that reaches more people at scale.
Yeah. That's powerful. I just, guys, Dominique Wilson, co-founder and strategic advisor to RiseKit. It is an economic mobility software that has reached 40,000 MRR, which is monthly. What did you call it? Monthly recurring revenue. I should know. I knew revenue. For some reason, I was missing that recurring. I like recurring revenue. So I'm going to remember that recurring. I like when I get a check every month. So I love that. I love that. And, in our space, we used to call it affiliate marketing, right? You're getting a check every month. Mm-hmm. To connect people to that. So I think those are, I'm just giving some folks some marketing terms. You've heard, affiliate marketing, you've heard passive income. So very similar from that, him giving that idea of Netflix. I like to just kind of help people understand that because, we don't all have to be the doers, right? We can be the visionaries. We can be the strategic advisors. We don't all have to be the doers but in a lot of times in businesses, we are doing all of it. So Dominique, I want you all to share with the audience something that you are working on that you would like to share with our audience about what you're promoting next.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so, and I really appreciate the space to elevate our voice balls. So, shine a light on the different ways to grow business, and I would say through my experience building out RiseKit, and I wasn't a technical founder, and so I learned a lot throughout the process, and because of that, decided to build another company as one of the board members with Simba Technology Revolutions. And basically, we are a software development consulting firm, and all our engineers are coming from the motherland. And so we are able to provide a lower cost option that comparable to the U.S. market, while also our talent has been able to work with institutions before joining Simba as partners with us. They've worked with institutions such as Goldman Sachs and Hacker Bay, and even Microsoft. And so definitely find some folks that ultimately support small. We focus on startups and small businesses.
Okay.
And we do that because we recognize that a lot of folks that's looking to grow their own products, they may not know how to enter the market, find investors, or even what a product market fit looks like as well. So we support that growth as a firm.
So that's Simba Technology Revolutions. Can you share how people can learn about Simba Technology Revolutions?
Yeah, you can check out Simba at simbatechrev.com, and that's SIMBA Tech REV.com. And our team is happy to support and across the gambit when I think about economic development, which is at the helm of what I'm focused on, because at the end of the day, creating job opportunities, bringing it to scale, whichever way folks want to collaborate through RiseKit, or even folks that just want to learn and want to build bridges. So I find that there's always purpose and a lot of things that can be learned between collaboration. And so
I love it. First of all, I love that you've taken the role to be in this tech space out of Chicago. You this. I mean, you find that, we've got a lot of tech founders in Chicago, but I feel like they're still not that level. They don't see Chicago as that tech space, And I think we have to constantly, and I'm learning that it's okay to keep reintroducing yourself, right? And reintroducing what you're working on. But I think that's the thing. As I go out in other communities, they still don't see Chicago as a tech space. It's interesting. We're still the space of food, right? And so, but, you know, my parents all moved here for better jobs. So it's weird how the way the world sees us. And so I think it's important to be able to highlight, you know, businesses like your business, RiseKit, and then the other technology softwares that you guys are developing. So if you are listening, you have, you know, a technology idea. I think Dominique is a great person for you to connect with and build on that, as he mentioned, from a Bridges standpoint. So I want to make sure, because he is focused on improving marginalized communities, from job creation to improving the corridors and neighborhoods and communities. So I just want to throw it out. So as we get to, I want to make sure people know how to connect with you. So if you can drop your handles and let us know how people can get in contact with you and your website.
Yeah, certainly. So I am on Instagram, which is DWIL Inspire. Folks can also email me, same handle at gmail.com. And websites, RiseKit is, of course, www.risekit, RiseKit.co. And finally, Simba. Simba is, of course, www.simba, SIMBA tech, TECHREV.com. And our team across the gambit, regardless of being able to compliment you all now or later, more so even just to learn and collaborate in any way. Happy to contribute.
That's awesome, because that's what Black Businesses Matters is all about, is collaboration and making sure that there's more of it. We try to, when we get on people and people say, I listened to an episode, and I will tell them, well, you need to listen to that episode, that we have somebody and maybe you need to connect with them. And we've learned that people do it and they make connections and they learn, but the episode allowed for them to learn more versus, you know, websites to give you, and then you hear the story and then you make the connection and then you're like, oh my gosh, right? So we tell people it's a good way to connect with people from there. So I want to talk to you. I want to ask you, and as we close and as we wrap, we like to ask this question: why do Black businesses matter?
Black businesses matter because oftentimes it's been overlooked and we've been disinvested in. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, when us as Black Americans, Black people, across, you know, the diaspora, across continents, we have so much strength and power, and we don't often realize our potential. And I'm a firm believer that when we create something and we create it where it can be at scale, it impacts not only our lives today, but our future generations. And so if you have an idea, don't hesitate. You know, research it, find allies, find mentors, and test it out. Create a MVP, most valuable product, and test it out. You never know what will come of it. And so wish y'all luck and never give up.
That's good. So Dominique, you know, we realize that when we ask that question, the other question that we love, because we believe that it is important, because when you hear the narrative sometimes at the beginning, you don't understand that there's joy still inside of him. So I want to ask you, what brings you joy?
Well, I appreciate that question. I think that too often people work so hard but don't take moments to appreciate life. And I would say what gives me joy the most is knowing that when we get people jobs through RiseKit, or if, you know, find a new opportunity and get people jobs and get in Africa, their lives are changed for the better. They're able to have a more sustainable livelihood for themselves, get better quality food, get better education, be able to purchase their own homes. And that not only impacts their own lives, but their immediate family, be it their children, their wives or husband, and their cousins, their aunts, their uncles, all their family members. And so that really gives me joy because, and I end this in this point, and I think about, I had an opportunity to meet John Lewis. And I've been sharing this as of late with a lot of people, I would say, and when I say I met him, it wasn't where we were in passing. He gave a speaker, which he did speak, but we had a luncheon right beforehand, and I sat at his table. I had that honor and reminiscing what he shared in the space that we were in, and it just dawned on me that he bleed like any other person bleeds. That he was born at a certain hour, a certain day, but he was birthed by a woman and a man. And because he was brought into this world, and the experiences he had, but at the end of the day, he made a decision. And because of the things around him, he made a decision to do something. And because of his decision and many others like him in history, it has made generational impact. And so I always believe that no matter who you are, your impact can be felt. It's just about you making a single decision and you doing something. And it will have ripple effects in lives that you never thought was possible.
That's beautiful, Dominique. So beautiful. Well said. Hey guys, I just want to say one of the things that he pointed out, and I want to just bring this out because I think when you're building a B2B business, it's still very important. He gave us a few tips. I'm going to give it to you. Never stop learning. Build a team. Don't do everything alone. And then number 3, keep pushing, keep getting feedback from customers, not just when you build your product. And I saw that and I was like, that's it. People don't realize the importance of getting feedback from customers. And because it's just so important, right? And to me, it goes back to, you can't talk at the people, you got to talk with the people. Yes. And so just creating that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to say that. So I want to just say, Dominique, this has truly been a joy to have you on the show. You've just been able to really help us to understand that there are tech founders that are making things efficient in this place of job creation and just social services and, helping with housing services. And there is, a Black leader behind it that sees the value in making it efficient. So kudos to you, Dominique.
Thank you, Larvetta, for opening up this space, you and your team. I'm very humbled. You all are elevating voices that oftentimes don't get heard. And those that's listening, never give up on what your dreams are, and don't just write things out, but take action on what you believe in, and you just be surprised where it comes to. So I'm just really grateful for this space and be able to contribute as I have thus far in my life.
Thank you, Dominique. That means a lot because we said we wanted to highlight businesses that sometimes are voiceless, right? And bringing their voice to the forefront so that they are heard in such a big way. And you just confirmed that. So thank you, Dominique. Thank you, listeners. We appreciate you in this season of B2B business. We have so much more and what we're bringing to the table and bringing businesses who service other businesses or even nonprofits or nonprofit government companies. As much like Dominique, I think you've opened up another way for us. And so I think being able to see that you can also service business, but you can also service nonprofits and nonprofit government agencies. And the terms that he used, I think, were just powerful for us all to take away to build out investors and donors. So I thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. And know that I started this not so great, but I've just ended this with so much joy in my heart to be able to have sat down with Dominique Wilson of this wonderful tech company called RiseKit. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. See you next week.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.